Have you ever wondered why a lot of people are avoiding new EVs? And even used ones are a tough sell. The EV market is plummeting and everyone is buying something else. In today's video, we show you 7 reasons why dealers can't sell new or old EVs.
Ford lost billions of dollars on electric vehicles last year, and they may lose even more this year. Ford says its electric vehicles division had a net loss of $4.7 billion in 2023.
Number 7, expensive to sell. EVs are great for the environment, but they are not exactly great for your pocket. And for most people, the environment takes a backseat to hard cash. In many ways, you can say that this is one of the reasons why many EVs remain unsold. Dealers have to invest a lot of money to be eligible to sell EVs, and time isn't doing EVs any good. A lot of dealers have been exposed to the harsh realities of the EV market, and they have just determined that it isn't worth the investment. Some auto dealers have had to invest as much as millions of dollars just to be eligible to sell EVs. EVs come with their special maintenance requirements, particularly the batteries, and changes to infrastructure like that don't come cheap. There are also additional costs involved in training staff to be better at selling EVs, all for the same amount of commission. Simply put, selling EVs is a massive investment. However, you'll expect that massive investments will yield massive returns, but the reverse is the case for EVs. Automakers and dealers have recorded only losses. Even selling used EVs is tough, as many are aware of the various problems that come with buying a used EV, one of them being outdated technology. Number 6, outdated technology. Anyone interested in an EV is interested in the capability of its software. We saw huge interest in the Tesla Model Y when people compared its infotainment software to the PlayStation 5.
Tesla's Model S 2021 refresh, and how it actually includes a gaming console that you can hook up your controllers to and truly game on with over 10 teraflops of processing power, which is just insane because that actually puts it on par with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X.
It almost felt like Teslas came with a PS5, and who wouldn't want that in their car, right? While this sounds great, it can also be a problem, as not every EV comes equipped that way. In reality, the used EVs are models that were released 3 to 5 years ago, and they didn't have all those bells and whistles, and even less. Newer EVs always seem to be way much better than their older counterparts, making buying a used one feel like a trip back to the past. The problem isn't just limited to used ones. Some newer, less premium models face a similar problem and end up staying unsold, gathering dust in dealer lots while consumers eye the latest technology. Another major problem that plagues many EVs is range. Number 5, range.
Now, the result they found was that the real range of these cars in real conditions was as much as 40% of what the manufacturers claimed. 40% less.
If you thought EVs had bad range, you probably haven't tried a used one. One of the reasons why most people stay away from new EVs is that they typically want to drive for an entire week or at least 3 days without worrying about charging. Newer EVs have better batteries, which means better range, but even the best ones are only good for a day's work, meaning charging at home is a must if you want to save money. But more on that later. Used EVs have much older batteries, and if you've used any electronic device, you'll know that batteries fade. Batteries of EVs fade too. The older ones don't usually charge up to their initial capacity, meaning even less range for a car with maybe a maximum range of 200 kilometers. It's almost like you're asking to get stuck in the middle of nowhere. This makes EVs, especially used ones, a no-no for most people. There's also the problem with maintenance. That's number 4, maintenance.
There is no engine, there is no gearbox in the traditional sense, and that also means when it comes to servicing, well, there's no oil changes, there's no air filter changes, so it's going to be much cheaper, isn't it?
While EVs are heavily advertised as being easier and cheaper to maintain, the reality is a lot different. If something happens to the batteries of an EV or its battery casing, it could set you back thousands of dollars.
One BC EV owner was shocked when he discovered the price of replacing his EV battery was going to cost more than the value of the car.
Most insurance companies know this and usually charge higher premiums for EVs. Even now, a lot of new EVs still end up in junkyards after slight battery problems, because insurance companies would rather scrap an EV than fix it due to the high cost of repairs. This problem is magnified with a used EV. They are less durable than their newer counterparts and may have suffered one initial damage or the other. A second accident could ground a used EV like that, as they are known to have low reliability scores. Maintenance, or the unusual lack of it, is another reason why EVs have been gathering dust in dealerships. Most dealers would rather sell gas-powered cars because they require costlier maintenance, the bread and butter of any standard dealership. If an EV requires fixing or maintenance, it is usually something software-related that the dealer or any average repair shop in your area is not equipped to fix. However, with an ICE, dealers get to make extra money from repairs, oil changes, and such, so they'd rather sell a gas-powered car. This leads us to our next reason. Number 3. EV market slowdown.
And extremely eventful, but also just the last few months where we, take a look at what has happened at Tesla, the amount of price cutting that they did last year for.
Reason number 3 for why buying a used EV is dangerous is the slowdown of the EV market. Gone are the days when EVs were selling like crazy. The early adopters convinced automakers that the world was ready to embrace EVs and completely abandon all other vehicles. They were making thousands of cars yearly and were ramping up production for mass market sales, but before they could see that, these cars had no mass market appeal. It was too late. EV automakers have been consistently reporting diminishing sales numbers, and auto dealers have the market supply days to prove it. Most EVs in dealer lots are averaging over 100 market supply days, and some are doing a lot worse. People are not that interested in EVs, and they are way less interested in used ones, even though they might still get a warranty on the battery and even a tax credit of up to $4,000. All these matters little because of the next reason why EVs are sitting unsold in dealers' lots. Number 2, depreciation.
We are witnessing depreciation on a scale nobody had anticipated, and in a much shorter time frame also, well before battery issues have even started.
Number 2 on our list is depreciation. While most people know that all cars depreciate the moment they leave the dealership, EVs take depreciation to a whole new level. EVs depreciate a lot faster than ICEs, and the difference is more than a little. The average ICE loses around 39% of its initial value in 3 years. For EVs, that number is almost double, as the average EV loses up to 52% of its value in 3 years. It gets worse as the car gets older, making EVs a bad choice if you plan to resell a vehicle. For those of us who like to drive our cars until the engine drops, this won't be a problem, but this next reason is unavoidable. Number 1, charging. The number 1 reason on our list of why EVs remain unsold and why even used ones are dangerous is charging. No one likes to spend all their time on the road, so why would anyone be interested in buying a car that adds at least an hour to almost every other journey? While there have been many upgrades to EV charging infrastructure, they aren't fast enough yet. It takes some EVs an average of 40 minutes to an hour to charge from 0 to 80%, and even longer for used ones. And this is assuming you're lucky enough to find a level 3 charger. Remember that some used cars are not able to charge to full capacity, so if you're on a relatively long trip, be prepared to charge multiple times. Charging speed is one thing, and finding a charging station is another. While there are over 60,000 charging stations in the United States, they are not everywhere. Besides, it's not absurd to get a charging station only to be met with a queue of cars waiting their turn to charge. In situations like this, the wait time can hurt your plans and ruin your trip. The icing on the cake is the cost of charging. Charging at home is cheaper than charging at a charging station, but it's not cheap to get one of these chargers set up in your house. It's a lot more expensive to rely on charging stations, as they can be time-consuming and cost as much as $30 for a full charge. EVs still aren't for the average Joe. They are expensive to acquire and even more costly to maintain. That's why new EVs are spending too long on dealer lots, and used ones are scrapped for batteries. There's been a more logical shift to self-charging hybrids, and they're hurting EV sales way more than before. Self-charging hybrids eliminate several problems associated with EVs at a lower cost. The EV automakers know, and they too are pivoting in that direction. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.